My partner and I were dispatched to capture two Asians. Both were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, and our officers arrived to inspect the residence after obtaining a search warrant. We decided to get something to eat before we started the interrogation, knowing that it would take quite a while before the hospital staff would allow us to see the arrestees. We took a table and noticed that the bar was starting to fill up. No one paid much attention to us, since we were in plain clothes and our badges and weapons were concealed from view in accordance with Sheriff's Department policy. The three men in the booth to my left were talking loudly about a woman who wanted to have slutty sex with three guys at a future meeting. When one guy mentioned a woman's name, it caught my attention. My wife's name is Kinky Karen Kennedy. As I stared at the guy, he turned to me and asked if he could help me. "I'm sorry, I heard what you were talking about, and I went to college with a girl named Kinky. You made me think back to the old days. She was hot and liked to play around. She was about 160 and had a flamingo tattoo on her upper left thigh." The guy laughed and said, "Well, it could be the same girl, only the flamingo has a palm tree next to it and an island at sunset. It's very colorful, and yes, she does like sex. My boys and I were talking about pulling a train on her. Want to join in?" "Well, I think she's married." "So she is, to a little jerk sheriff's deputy who's due for some military training in 2 weeks. That's when the party starts." I noticed my partner typing something on his phone. He looked me in the eye, shaking his head slightly from side to side, telling me not to do anything stupid. "If she's married to a cop, how do you find time to meet?" "We met at a bar and hit it off. She told me that her tiny husband was working shifts and would be working nights for the next 2 months, from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. We hooked up at my house and at her house for a quickie. She said she had had a threesome in the past and wanted to try it with 3 guys. That's what my boys and I talked about. But Bobby is wary of the fact that her husband is a cop and carries a gun. I said to hell with it, it's not like I'm afraid, even though I have problems too. Just don't report it to my parole officer." "Ha! Do you have a picture of her or any video of her?" "Hold on a second." He pulled out his phone and, sure enough, showed me a picture of my wife in the nude. 2 uniformed deputies approached our table, and my partner nodded toward the 3 men in the booth. Corporal Miller said in a firm voice that the men should put their palms on the table and not move. He added, "I have reason to believe that you are armed, and any abrupt movement will be considered a hostile threat." They obeyed. They were each told to leave the booth, handcuffed, and searched. Guns were found on 2 of them, but Bobby was unarmed. 2 more uniformed sheriff's deputies arrived and were all escorted out of the bar. I was no longer hungry, but I paid their bill, leaving a 20% tip for the waiter. The officers ran background checks on all 3, and the chatterbox was indeed a paroled felon. The gun the other man had was clearly stolen. Bobby was clean, well, except that he had wet his pants somewhere during contact. I looked at the chatterbox and showed him my business card. After he noted my name, he said dumbfoundedly, "Well, that's some bullshit." "You got that right," I said, shoving my business card into his shirt pocket. My partner asked me what I was going to do with my wife. My answer was simple: "What wife?"